Okay, oh, that pose is perfect. Okay, we're over here at Arts Quest Steel Stacks over here in Bethlehem on a beautiful spring afternoon. Nature is actually cooperating for a change. Interviewing Tatiana Hernandez. Now, what really could, main reason I wanted to interview you because of, your spoken word and poetry, the way you've performed is fantastic. But something you just pulled off recently that almost goes against the rules of an open mic with where you did it.
Yeah, I recently hosted Max Booth's first open mic and brought a lot of people in, I'd say between 20 and 30 people. The owner, Lou, was really receptive. I think he was under the impression that an open mic is just a lot of frilly poetry, but he didn't know that I was bringing in different artists and comedians. Some people from the Alternative Gallery that I've seen came through. Some people from Inconvenient Truth, a group that was formed at Lehigh University, came through. So we brought some people and kind of shook things up a little bit. And it was Taco Tuesday, so everybody was thinking that they were just going to hang out and have some tacos and watch the hockey game. And then the open mic started and people were kind of wondering what was going on. So I hosted and performed and had the privilege of having a lot of people come to it. And it was a little nerve-wracking at first because I was hoping that people wouldn't boo us out of the place, but that didn't happen. There was a couple moments when things got a little hairy, when some of the performers got maybe a little adult with some of their content.
R-rated, shall we say.
But that was, diffused, and, we recollected ourselves and continued. But it's going to happen again, and I'll be hosting, and we're going to have an art/open mic coming up in July at Soto's. That's the next one that's on schedule, and it'll be even better.
Okay. Now, what gave you the idea? I mean, every open mic I've been to with the poetry, every one I've been to is like at a coffee shop, or a bookstore or something. And I'll be honest with you, they're kind of like when you get into that atmosphere, people almost expect it to be somewhat boring. When you get into that kind of atmosphere, what gave you the idea to really change things up and say, it's time that new ideas and new blood got infused into this to really bring it to life and really bring it to center stage, like the music and now the art is here in the Lehigh Valley. What gave you the idea?
Well, I think the Valley is starting to go through some changes, some growing pains, and it's been happening the last 10 or 15 years. And some people are resisting it, but I felt that the venue, Maxku, it's a nice place. They have awesome food.
Is.
They have good service, and the owner really was interested in doing that there. So I brought the artists there, and I felt like it would be a win-win situation. They were going to make money. We weren't charging people to get in. We were going to be able to perform and do our material. And I felt like it was something that the place needed because Lou had said he wanted to bring kind of a cultural event to it. And that's what we did. Mm-hmm. Sometimes culture shocks people. But
yeah,
I think that it's good to bring things like that to places that don't expect it. I think people see us as beatniks or hippies, and we're regular people. Artists are regular people.
It's time to drop the old cliches, and that's like what that's what I've been saying for a while now. It's like with the open mic and poetry, I've been trying to hint around, and nobody quite got the hint of, look, you need to do something different. It's great. It's a part of Lehigh Valley. There's a lot of great poets and, spoken word and comedians in here. But the way you're doing it just isn't getting anybody's attention.
Yeah, you're limiting yourself if you're just going to promote it in a coffee shop. I mean, there's a lot of places that try and do that around here on 3rd Street. I can name a couple. I'm not going to name because I don't want to, but you walk in and there's like 3 or 4 people in there. And unfortunately, they're not bringing in the crowds. And so I'm hoping that I can bring different flocks of people to these places. And I mean, these places already have a reputation.
Yeah.
So it's just going to bring more attention to them, more business to them, more exposure to the arts. And so I just want to collide both worlds. People love beer, people love food, people love to hang out.
The sports.
Yeah, and people like art too. So I mean, if we can do a cornucopia of that and show people a good time, and that you don't have to just stare at a TV, that you can watch people perform and engage in real social interactions as opposed to just playing with our phones, and that's good.
Yeah, and I did, watching the crowd, like I said, there was a table in the back with like 4 or 6 people that I was constantly, you know, I was paying attention. I knew a lot of the people performing, so I was paying attention, but my main focus was on the crowd and how are they reacting? There was one table in the back that was really, they were just there for dinner. It was like a family, and you really caught their attention with that, you know? So now, how did you get started? Like with, we're gonna go back here as to how you got started with poetry and how you know, maybe several years back, how you got interested in it and, you know, evolved from there, shall we say?
Well, I started getting into poetry most recently with the group Inconvenient Truth. That's kind of facilitated by Cassie Johnson, a professor at Lehigh. And prior to that, I had met a poet named Gerson Martinez who performed that night. And he, you know, published this book. I read it, met him, and then he started taking me to a couple places where he performed that. And that really just helped that part of me blossom. I have an art background. I love art. I grew up in the Valley my whole life since the age of 2, and, you know, studied education and art. So I started as an art teacher, and I'm in front of kids teaching them, and I was like, shit, I could do this in front of adults too. It's a little different, but I think I'm naturally charismatic, and I like to have a good time, and I like other people to have a good time with me. So I'm just trying to create that fun environment maybe that I have for my kids, but with adults too. And
no, which is harder, the kids or the adults, huh? Point blank honest, which do you think?
Harder. I think adults are set in their ways, and they don't adapt to change as easily as kids do. And I feel that kids have a more understanding of what authority is, and I think you can get their attention a lot easier because they're younger and you're an adult. But I think adults tend to act like kids more than kids do. So I think it was a little harder. I had to, you know, get the crowd's attention and, you know, remind them to, you know, applause. You know, real simple things.
Actually, initially it was the snapping of the fingers.
Yeah, we did the snapping too. But I love the arts. I feel that it has gotten me through a lot of difficult times. Music and drawing and poetry and performance and now hosting. So I'm really just trying to explore all facets of art. And I think that everybody needs to explore more of their creativity, and there will be more joy.
Okay. Now, you said you've always loved art. Have you always, like, ever since, you know, you were a kid, did you always like drawing and things like that?
Yeah,
or
you know, my generation, you know, we played outside, you know, we used our imagination.
I guess there aren't that many years between the two of us.
So, and I grew up in South Terrace, so I mean, we didn't have a lot of money, so we, you know, played pretend. We were always having drawing contests.
Flip the frisbee around in the summer or things like that.
Kick the can, actually.
Okay.
That was the game. But so I grew up learning to have an imagination, and my parents always helped foster that. So that was always in me. I'm a naturally creative person, and I think now I'm growing into being more confident in exploring other areas that I haven't really touched on yet. So that's where I'm at
now. If you have to excuse me if I skip around a lot, my brain just works that way. When you were now hosting your first event, going into it, what, like, were you nervous? Did you overthink it? Did you just kind of like get up there and say, all right, there are people, I'm people, you know, what was like, how was it for you going in, you know, actually even setting up the event, knowing, okay, this is a totally different venue. And this is also to encourage other people to try new things also. What was it like for you to actually, you know, set up the event and going into it like, okay, I've gotten up and read before, but I've never hosted an event. What was it like for you?
It was just a dream at first, and then I had the support of some friends, some other poets. So a girl, Kelsey Kingsley, she made the flyer, which was really cool of her. And Steve Del Turk, also known as Barry Hoon, he was very supportive, and Kashi, and a lot of my other artist friends. So I had that, you know, foundation to support me with bodies, to be there and to perform. So the only issue was, you know, making sure people showed up. So you can tell people about it, you can post on it, but the night before, I was just texting everybody, remember, tomorrow's the night.
You could have
better be
100
there.
yeses on the Facebook event and 3 people
Yeah,
show
you gotta
up.
remind people because you know people don't. I like to set events on my calendar on my phone. It sets the alarm for me, so I was letting them know the night before, and they're like, "Yes, I'm coming. I'll be there." And then the day of, I was really nervous, and I was gonna use a tambourine. And I never really used a tambourine before that. I played violin, never the tambourine, so I was experimenting with that, practicing in my house all morning because I was singing, and it's a song I really liked. So about an hour before the show, I started drinking some margarita mix with a Cuervo to loosen up a little bit, and then I was just waiting for Lou to give me the green light to start, and he kept giving me the green light for a couple minutes, and I was like, all right, I'm ready, we're gonna do it. So just got a little bit of tequila and a little bit of practice, and it's showtime.
Okay, well, we're going to cut off with part 1 here, and part 2, we're actually going to get a little more into your background, you know, especially your educational history. You know, as far as like areas like, okay, poetry is, I know from personal experience, if you publish a book of poetry, it is one of the hardest genres to get to sell anywhere, you know, things like that. So, and then you wind it out with, you know, advice to other people. Sound good?
Yes.